Hi everyone, welcome to the Wildlife Ranger Challenge Fitness Training Program webinar. We're just waiting for a couple more people to join and then we'll get going. All right, welcome everyone. My name's Andrew Campbell. I'm from the Game Rangers Association of Africa and I'm joined by Keith Roberts. Keith, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself briefly.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Great that you could join us today. I've worked as a ranger, training of rangers, managing of rangers over the last 25 odd years, pretty much across the length and breadth of Africa and elsewhere in the world. And I've been actively involved with the Game Ranger Association as well as other ranger associations globally. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Keith. I'm based down here in South Africa, but travel around Africa when I can to different ranger projects. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we start the webinar. One is that this webinar will be recorded, so just to please be aware of that. And then if we could ask, I see we've got quite a few people here, which is fantastic. If you can just put your name and organization that you're representing in the chat, that would be appreciated, so we can just see who's here and which of the organizations and protected areas are represented. And then if you do have questions while we're going through the webinar, you're welcome to put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. Or we'll have a session, the last sort of 20 minutes or so of the webinar. Hopefully we'll get to do some question time. But you're welcome to put them in the chat, and Keith and I will try and keep an eye on them during the course of the next hour or so and get back to you where we can. You're also welcome to contact us directly, and I'll share our contact details towards the end of the webinar. All right, so that's the housekeeping out the way.
Andrew, maybe just to mention that we're both athletes. You're an athlete. You've competed a number of marathons. You're training for an ultra marathon, and I've done a lot of. I'm an extreme athlete across multiple disciplines. Just so people know that the training program that we have put forward is not just based on a couple of ad hoc bits and pieces. This is based on 20, 30 years of racing, professionally or semi-professionally, in extreme sports.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, I certainly don't consider myself much of an athlete. I tend to rather try and complete these things rather than compete in them. But Keith is much more on the competitive side. And yeah, for those of you that follow 4Rangers, which is one of our wildlife ranger partners, you'll see some of the extreme events that Keith's done, raising money for rangers over the years. So yeah, a lot of the sort of thinking in this document comes from a wealth of experience in the area, and we certainly pull on ranger trainers and those involved in ranger fitness programs to build this when we put it together last year. All right, just to start, just to thank organizing partners, obviously Tusk for putting together the webinar, Coralie and Emily in particular, obviously the Game Rangers Association, which I'm representing, and then some of our funding partners that allow us to bring the Wildlife Ranger Challenge to you. So basically the principal goal of putting the program in place last year was to try and raise the standard of ranger fitness training for the teams that are involved in the Wildlife Ranger Challenge. The plan came out last year, and some of the teams did use it and find it of benefit. But this year we decided to host this webinar to try and just sensitize the different teams to the thinking behind the training program and hopefully get more uptake of it, with the goal of obviously trying to raise the fitness of rangers in the field. In terms of, it's basically just to provide some guidance and recommendations to improve the approach to ranger fitness training. We know that some of the protected areas have very comprehensive programs in place, and this is by no means meant to replace that. It's just meant to provide guidance and, to those that perhaps don't have training programs in place, and provide some discussion points as, how these training programs can be improved. What we have been asked before, why range of fitness? And I think, this is a sort of diagram that we came up with at GRAA, which is what we call the 7 pillars of an effective ranger team. And fitness becomes, ties very much into ranger well-being. So that's the wellness of rangers, both physical and mental wellness. We know there's tremendous benefits to exercising for your mental health, as well as obviously your physical health. And those are very closely linked to motivation and discipline. If you have the discipline to train and the discipline to improve fitness, it's closely linked to discipline in the workplace. And obviously motivation, energy levels is closely linked to all of those. So those top 3 pillars, discipline, well-being, and motivation, are really closely linked to improving fitness standards in ranger teams. Keith, I don't know if you've got anything to add here. Obviously, the 2 key pillars there are integrity and leadership of teams.
No, Andrew, you hit the nail on the head with those. Nothing to add.
Great. Just in terms of what the guideline entails, so it has a couple of key assumptions that we'll run you through 1 or 2 of those. And then there's a basic guideline as to what a 3-month training plan would look like. And the idea there is for the plan to start from the 1st of July, you'll see on the plan, up until a race day, which is in September. So the idea was to come up with a sort of 3-month basic plan to take rangers from, build them up to race day in September. Obviously, a lot of teams have started training already, and many teams have training as part of their weekly routines, which is fantastic. We'll then touch on individual fitness tests and standards, what those look like, where they've come from, and how one would conduct the fitness tests. There is a fitness test results log included, which is an Excel document which you will have received, and that's just a way of monitoring progress of the different rangers and how they're performing in that fitness test. Obviously, it's important to keep a log of that. Are rangers improving? It's obviously the goal with building ranger fitness is you should see an improvement in those results as the training progresses. But it's important to measure and monitor those results. The document also contains workout descriptions. So we came up with 3 very basic workouts that we'll talk to. And then the movement standards, which are critically important as to how the exercises themselves are actually performed and why we come up with those. So a couple of the assumptions, that we made when we did this, obviously that the rangers, being a physical job outdoors, and often, with patrolling being a key part of ranger teams' activities, whether they're working inside protected areas or even those working outside of protected areas in community areas, there will be a basic level of fitness that is required for the positions. So we assume that rangers have some kind of level of fitness before entering this program. We assume that they're medically sound. So they have had some kind of medical check to make sure that they can, complete physical exercises. And one of the keys with obviously a fitness plan or fitness program is consistency. Without consistency, we will not achieve our goal of improving ranger fitness. And that's the key here, is to try and have a program where there's consistent, approach to exercise, and that requires discipline, as we've spoken about.
And what to add to that, Andrew, is that the rangers have access to good nutrition as well. Some of the rangers, as we've worked with, have had very, very basic food, and that definitely impacts their ability to operate at their physically best. So, there's an assumption that they have access to decent nutrition as well.
100%. Yeah, and I think that comes up here as well with the what we talk about in terms of safety and injury prevention as well. So we do recommend an annual medical assessment for rangers. That's something that comes from GRAA standards. You know, when we work with protected areas, that rangers are going through some kind of annual medical assessment in terms of screening for critical illnesses, diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. There should, as I said, there should be a basic level of fitness already in place. To Keith's point, nutrition and hydration is really important when doing exercise. You know, the physical demands of the exercise will require you know, a reasonable level of nutrition, and obviously hydration during the exercises. We've often been on, you know, on long patrols with rangers. Some teams don't carry water. This can be a limiting factor if patrols go beyond the expected time, or if heat is you know, is higher than expected. Last year we did have we had a number of rangers up in near the Kruger National Park at the Wildlife College that collapsed with dehydration from very high temperatures and not drinking enough during those conditions. Rest and recovery, really important, and you'll see that, you know, there's specific days allocated to rest within the training plan, and really key. You know, that rest is part of the training. You shouldn't view it as outside of the training plan. There are days where you know, physical training will not take place, and you know, if that's a shortish patrol or a day in the office or whatever it would look like, really important to incorporate that into the plan so the body can rest. The key, obviously, listen to your body in terms of understanding it, recognizing when there are issues, injuries, and investigating those injuries when and if they do occur, rather than just ignoring them. Really
Andrew,
key that, yeah.
Andrew, sorry, just want to add, Pete just reminded me, and it's a very important point, and we very seldom see it amongst rangers, is deworming. Having parasitic worms in the system severely undermine the ability to operate effectively, and having an annual, even 6 month, biannual or annual deworming program for the rangers it's light and day often in their health, just through something as simple as that doesn't cost much. So I strongly encourage any ranger teams out there or managers is to make available deworming medication to the rangers.
Yeah, great, good point, Pete, and thanks for that. So yeah, and obviously safety is really paramount to doing any of these things. Make sure where you're going to train, if you're running, that it's in a safe area, that you have you're following the necessary safety protocols of your protected area. We know many rangers are working in areas where, you know, large and dangerous game occur, and you need to take that into account. And you know, work in teams. Never train alone, you know, in the protected area by yourself. Make sure that you follow the safety protocols that should be in place at your park. Obviously, with the fitness training plan, it is voluntary. This is not a prerequisite to taking part in the challenge. We do strongly recommend, though, that teams that are preparing for race day have a training program in place, and this gives you a way of well, an example of what that would look like. It is adaptable, so if you do have a training plan that you're currently using and that you're happy with, you're welcome to keep going with that. You're welcome to use what you can from this program if you see benefit from it. So you can adapt this program to suit the specific needs of your area or time constraints or whatever it might be. What it does recommend is basically doing a fitness test per week. Obviously, the fitness test itself is a training, is a training day. It is an intense, test of physical and mental endurance, and it allows you to track progress over that 3-month period building up to race day. We came up with 3 very basic different workouts that gradually increase in intensity as you get fitter. And the program relies on obviously adding weight gradually and building distance up to September for race day. Some teams might be working and running with weight already, which is fine. But for those that haven't been working with weight, the program allows for a gradual increase in weight up to September. So I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. You all should have a copy of this training program, but you'll see there, as I said, starting off on the 1st of July. So that's in a little less than 2 weeks. And yeah, starting with a fitness test to establish your baseline. So where are you now? And then hopefully you'll see an improvement in the fitness testing results over time. You'll see that the workouts refer to the workouts we designed. So workout 1 is essentially the least intense of them. Workout 2 is when you've developed some baseline fitness, you'll move on to workout 2, and then workout 3 is more intense. You'll see there also in terms of the running, these can be, you can change your days out just as long as you're getting through the work per week, you should be fine. We know that obviously operational circumstances dictate when you have time to do this. It involves the 2.4K run, and you'll see there on the 15th of July, the 2.4 kilometer time trial challenge, which is part of the Wildlife Ranger Challenge this year. On the 12th of August, the push-up challenge, and then the 9th of September, the sit-up challenge. So we've incorporated the challenges into the program. And then you'll see there the weights that we've put in there are for the male rangers. And we decrease the weight to 55% of that for the female rangers. So that's in line with the Wildlife Ranger Challenge weights. So building up to 22 kilograms for men and 10 kilograms for women.
Andrew, a quick one. On day 6, for those longer distances, especially when you start getting up to 15, 18 kilometers, I know it's often, and from personal experience, often work dictates that you don't have the time to do that in one go. So what often I do is I split into 2 training sessions. So if it's a 15K, I'll do 7.5 Ks in the morning and then 7.5 Ks in the evening, or 10 Ks in the morning, 5 Ks in the afternoon. So as long as it's at the end of the day, it's time on legs, is what we say. So it's time on, as long as you're getting the time on the legs, that's important.
Yeah, 100%, Keith. And it's really critical. We know that, work stresses and time constraints are real and in place. And also it depends on the amount of patrolling that your team is doing. So if they're doing 15, 20 kilometers patrol, that can be just increasing the weight for that patrol, that they start patrolling with more weight to build up the fitness, that they maybe, dedicate certain sections of the patrol, maybe along the fence lines to running those sections. So it is adaptable to that, and the idea is obviously to increase the weight over time and increase the distance and time on feet, as Keith says, really, really important. Right, so just moving on to the fitness test itself. So this is obviously, as I said, an assessment of where you are in terms of fitness. The fitness test has been around for many years in the ranger world. It is used as part of, in many places, as part of selection, that one would need to perform the fitness tests and be at a certain standard before you can complete your ranger training. What we normally recommend to teams is that they conduct a fitness test with their, per ranger at least once a month to make sure that the standards are being maintained. You'll see in this program, though, we look at fitness testing about once a week and using it as part of the workout schedule, basically using the fitness test as a workout itself. And that's just because we're dealing with a shorter program here of 3 months. So we want to be checking in and seeing where the ranges are on a weekly basis. But, normally, as I say, once a month fitness testing at least. And the key here is obviously to record and track those results. You can, record them in some kind of database, like an Excel spreadsheet that we've provided, or however you're currently doing it. But the key there is to measure progress and see, if rangers are going backwards in their fitness tests, that might be a warning sign that there's an issue, an injury, or something going on medically. So really important to measure the progress of the fitness testing against the benchmarks. And you'll see here how the fitness test would work. So obviously it starts with a warm-up. There are many resources there in terms of looking at stretches and that on the internet. If you're not familiar with the kind of stretches that rangers should be doing, we can also provide you some guidance on that. But about 5 minutes of warming up, and then the fitness test would start with a 2.4 kilometer run, and that's a really good test of cardiovascular endurance, and a basic fitness test in itself. So the minimum standard there would be 12 minutes. That rangers should be able to complete that in. And then you'll see there we've set the different benchmarks. And here we've looked at benchmarks from the different ranger training providers, as well as some of the protected areas that we work with, and large conservation management groups like African Parks, for example, and have come up with what we call minimum and then superior and elite times or standards. Your standards for your particular protected area may be higher or lower than this, but these are a good gauge of where what we would consider as GRAA sort of elite standard. So you would then rest for a short period after your run. So once all the rangers are back, they would rest for about 3 minutes, just to catch their breath before they start what we call the muscular strength and endurance workouts. And starting with upper body, you'd move on to push-ups. And basically that's very similar to the mini challenges in terms of the Wildlife Ranger Challenge, but it's the maximum amount of push-ups that you can do in a 2-minute period. And you obviously need someone to count, and you need your rangers to perform the reps according to the movement standards, which we'll get onto shortly. But you'll see the minimum standard there is 40. So rangers should be able to perform 40 push-ups in 2 minutes. And then the elite standard is over 80. So if you've got rangers achieving over 80, a really good, level of fitness, and that can, obviously we know there are rangers that are capable at, performing over 120 push-ups in 2 minutes. But anything over 80 shows a decent standard of muscular upper body strength. There's then a brief rest there, and then you move into sit-ups, and basically same thing with the sit-ups, 2 minutes max, following the movement standards. Rest, squats, you would test your strength of your legs. Same thing there, 40 squats would be your minimum. And then moving into burpees. The burpee movement standard is a little bit more complicated than the others. It is all detailed in the program itself. And if you're not familiar with it, there's a video there as well that shows you how burpee should be performed, but really good because it tests your, your legs, your upper body, and your cardiovascular. And you'll see the minimum there is 24 burpees, and that Keith will be able to tell you, even doing 24 in 2 minutes will definitely get the heart rate going. And then the optional extra here is obviously pull-ups. Pull-ups is a key part of upper body strength, and it's a really, really good exercise for rangers to be doing. But we are aware that some rangers don't have access to pull-up bars at the moment, so we just put it in there as an optional extra. But and a really difficult exercise.
Yeah, Andrew, with pull-ups, it's probably one of the best things for developing core strength. So you'll find that your sit-up capability will greatly be enhanced through pull-ups. But also you need a strong core when you're doing long distance, because you put your hands on the top of your legs and on the side of your hips when you're walking, you feel like everything is moving, and that all connects up into the core around your stomach and around your back. And a lot of times people don't, or they underestimate the importance of the core when doing long distance running or speed marching. And pull-ups will greatly enhance your ability to deal with that. So we couldn't recommend pull-ups more strongly.
Yeah, 100%. And Keith, as you'll know, we've seen, I think sometimes it's an excuse. We don't have a pull-up bar, but we've seen rangers make a plan in many ranger bases if they have the keenness and discipline to do pull-ups, and they'll make a plan in terms of setting up a wooden pull-up bar. We've seen rangers doing pull-ups on tree branches.
I was doing them on tree branches.
Yeah.
The last 2 weeks. I was down in South Africa and I didn't have a pull-up bar, but I had a tree branch. So I did a good couple of hundred pull-ups just on the tree branch. All worked well.
Yeah. So there's always a ability to make a plan. And obviously, your protected area might have a few other exercises that you want to incorporate into the fitness test. Something like a plank is another fantastic exercise in terms of maximum, time to be able to plank. So, this is just a basic fitness test that we would recommend following something like this. The suggested workouts, we came up with 3 examples. Obviously, you can adapt these to the level of your teams. But the idea here is that there's a gradual increase in volume and intensity from workout 1 to workout 3. These are the basics of them. So you'll see we've kept it fairly simple in terms of doing maximum reps for particular exercises in 45 seconds, and then followed by a 15-second rest. That's a really good frequency to follow. And it's followed across many different exercise regimes like CrossFit and various others. Just gives you enough time to catch your breath before going again. And obviously the number of rounds changes. So you start with 3 rounds in workout number 1, and you'd work up to 5 rounds of that same routine for workout number 3. And obviously always starting with the 2.4 kilometer run just to get the beads of sweat flowing. So those are the 3 workouts. Just in terms of the movement standards, most teams will be familiar with these if they've competed in the Wildlife Ranger Challenge in the last few years. Really, really important. And, there's sort of 3 key points here is why we have movement standards, is that we can do the movement consistently. So each single rep must conform to the movement standard for it to be consistent and for it to be counted as a repetition for not only for the mini challenges, but for things like the fitness tests or during the workouts. As we get, more tired and fatigued, we tend to take, change our form and start performing the exercise badly. And the key here is to rather do, good reps consistent with the movement standard and do less of those than do more reps that don't conform to the standard. So, and the reason for that is, twofold. One is so that you can compare the results between different ranges so that they're doing the exact same movement. And the other one is around injury prevention. So there's certain aspects of, for example, the push-up movement standard that are there not because, someone thought it was a good idea, but is to actually prevent things like shoulder and elbow injuries when you're performing that standard. So really important that you follow these. If you're doing a lot of push-ups, it is easy to injure yourself and to develop injuries if you don't follow a proper form during the exercise. Keith, I don't know if you want to come in there at all.
Yeah, no, and it's key, as Andrew said, for injury prevention. We've seen a lot of shoulder and lower back injuries through push-up technique, for example, and also through sit-ups as well. So it's very important that the right movement standards are followed. And then from a judging perspective, Andrew and our judges when you guys submit your push-ups and sit-ups, and we have been very lenient over the last couple of years. We're slowly getting stricter, but this year we'd like to see some really good push-ups and sit-ups coming through. And I must say, some of the teams, we've seen some exceptional technique, which I know Andrew has shared as examples in the past. But if we can get all the rangers up to the same standards, then we've really done something successfully, and everyone can be proud of themselves.
100%. And I think the key here is if the rangers are following the movement standards, the progress is just so much better than if you're doing half a push-up or half a sit-up or a swinging pull-up or whatever it would be. You're cheating your body in terms of not doing the movement properly, and so you don't get the results that that you should be getting, and you are dedicating that time to try and improve. So it's worth doing, following these standards. They're there for a reason, and I think the teams that follow them, you can see when it comes to the actual mini challenges, you can really see the results there in terms of they can push out high level of reps at a consistent and good standard over their 2 minutes. Yeah. Whereas if you train badly and you take shortcuts during the training and don't follow the standards, then that's what happens on race day or on mini challenge day, is you end up, or fitness test day, is you'll end up not having reps that won't be counted because the standards have been allowed to be eroded. So yeah, you'll see there, I just put up the push-up movement standard as an example. I'm not going to take you through all of it, but there is a couple of photos per standard that should show you exactly how that would work. There's the top bullet points are just a basic run through of what the key points there would be. And then at the bottom, you'll see there is a video guide. So we videoed some ranges a few years ago, and those are available on YouTube. So if you just click on those links, you'll be able to see what it looks like in motion. Sometimes just reading the words and looking at the photographs doesn't show you what it's like, or you can't picture what it's like. But if you click on that video demonstration, you should be able to get a reasonable look at what a proper push-up would look like. And then, if you remember last year, we did share some photographs and some videos as well of some of the top teams. So, and each of the movement standards is covered in the document. So teams would be well advised to have a look through those, make sure that during training that teams are following these movement standards, particularly the sit-up. The sit-up that we do for Wildlife Ranger Challenge is called a butterfly sit-up. So there are specifics there that will be looked for in the mini challenge, and it's good for rangers to be practicing that movement before they actually complete it for the mini challenge. We know that there are many different varieties of sit-ups that you can do, but the butterfly sit-up is an incredibly good sit-up to do, and it's also one that's easy to judge in terms of we can see the performance points from a video quite easily. So that's the reason we've gone for that one as the sit-up of choice. I'm not going to we're about just over halfway into the webinar. We're just going to chat to two of the ranger teams that have produced consistent results, and I know there are many others out there, but Gonner Rousseau, Callum Duncan is going to start us off. He's just going to share some thoughts from how Gonner Rousseau approaches their fitness regime. So I'm going to hand over to Callum, and then Callum's going to hand over to Edward from Lewa. Lewa, yeah, really unique place. Rangers, training at high altitude, which makes things incredibly tough. And Edward's going to share a little bit about how they approach their fitness training. And then we're going to start doing some questions and answers. So Callum, over to you, and welcome all the way from Gonner Rousseau in Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for the time. So I'm Callum from Gonner Rousseau National Park in Zimbabwe. Last year was the first time that we had taken part in the Game Rangers, the Wildlife Ranger Challenge. We really enjoyed it. So this has been a very thorough presentation, and a lot of what I've seen is pretty much how what we follow and what we stick by. We are lucky that we have a number of rangers, a couple of hundred. So we do take pride in our fitness. The selection prior to this is important. We look at essentially trying to get the most motivated and natural athletes that we can, because not everyone wants to volunteer. So I think that's quite an important part, is to get the people that are really interested. So during that internal selection, the form and the technique which has been shown on these slides is important. We lost quite a few reps last year in the press-ups, for instance, because some of the rangers had changed the style in which they did their press-ups. So I would say definitely check that out and make sure that the form is accurate. The ability to train, I think, is really important. So we have rangers pretty much out on a limb in all manners of deployments, from outposts to vehicles or trailers, and ensuring that you make sure the expectations for them and how they will train is outlined. So what we normally do is, once we've done the selection, we get the team together, we brief them, and we set up a very similar training program. In fact, the fitness assessment, or the PT assessment, is quite similar to what we do anyway. So I think there's a natural, physical, muscle memory, and all the method is quite similar. So we ensure that when the guys are deployed, that they have access to be able to do this, and the time is made available to them whilst juggling, protecting the park as well. And to add to that, I think it is important that a captain or someone is dedicated to leading these teams. So especially if they are, out on a limb, I know we've all got quite a lot on our plates, and so I think it is important to delegate the authority and to allow someone who's naturally interested to lead the team, and then you've got a person who's moving it forward on their own, self-motivated. So that's what we've tried to do. Last year we had an excellent captain, and he took the reins, and we had good results. We are going to swap out all of the people that attended last year, so we give a chance to the other rangers as well. I think just another minute or so, on the 21-kilometer challenge, we noticed even from our teams that how to pack a backpack is underestimated. So I think when you look at the training program, even for those early runs, when you're doing 3 to 5 kilometers with small weights, is how to pack that correctly. And I think there's a couple of different ways of doing that, but essentially you've got to run out, see where the niggles are and where's it rubbing or hurting, and then go back and adjust it for the next run. Because I think when you're doing that 21 kilometers and you're halfway through and you've got a brick sticking into your back, you can't stop and change it. One of the things that we did last year, just as an added incentive, was to fill the weight with useful items. So we actually let the rangers take away everything that they carried. So it was different food items, and also it was easy to then mold to your back. So it was just a small thing for them. Obviously, at the end of the race, it is always good to try and celebrate it and have a barbecue or something fun for them. Finally, in Gonorrhea, we've got a number of elephants, and they have a reputation for being quite cheeky. So the safety around the fitness, especially the runs and the weighted runs, we always ensure that we've got a vehicle, first aid kit, radios, and obviously all the nutrition that you'll need. But for us, it is quite tricky when you're running and you're tired and you're looking down, that you've got someone looking out for you from an aspect of dangerous game. I think for the most part, Andrew, I think that was a very thorough document, and we'll certainly be following that 3-month training program. Give or take a few adaptations here and there, but I think having that out there for the guys to follow is great. So I think that's all from me. I think if there's any questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, Edward, it's over to you at high altitude.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much, Callum. And Edward, are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Callum, for handing over to me. As Andrew said, running is all about discipline. We ourselves here in Lewa Ward of Conservancy, I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Edward Derito. I'm the head of Ant-Pushing Unit. Here in Lewa, how we select our team, running is voluntary. So we ask people who are willing to participate in the World Wide Ranger Challenge. So it is voluntary. We have a limit of number. We normally start with a number of 7, so we have to do a selection. So it's a test of about 10 to 7 kilometers without any weight. So that is where we come up with a number. Then again, if we are targeting 4, we have to increase the number to be 8 or 7. Then we train for a month. So naturally here in Lewa, we normally have a training section for the unpoaching unit because we have a program that is there for life. Because on Mondays, we normally have a gym. On Tuesday, we have a 7 to 10 kilometers run. On Wednesday, we have a gym session. And on Thursday, we have a run, which is about 7 to 8 kilometers again, 7 to 10 kilometers again. Then on weekends, we normally do a long run, maybe 10, 15, sometimes we do 21. Then we make sure that after every 3 months, we do a challenge. We challenge ourselves, learning a far distance, about 50 kilometers, 40 kilometers in a group. And because of the nature of our work, most of our teams are deployed. And because of the limited of the number that we have free, we normally use the team that is on standby to do the training. So after we select the team that is going to participate in the World Wide Ranger Challenge, every day in the morning, we run with the team which is on standby because everyone has to learn because it's a routine. Physical fitness is one way of being fit, but it's good for mental. So every ranger, because even in our selection, when you are selecting the rangers, the first thing we have to do is physical fitness. You have to do 10 kilometers, and if you are looking for 2, the first 10 will qualify to go to the next stages. So everyone who is in the team must be fit. So for the training of the World Wide Ranger Challenge, as Andrew has given a presentation, it's just the same. We follow the program. The first program we got, it was from Pete Newland, thank to Pete, and it is just the same as you have done. So even now we are going to follow your program because we start by doing 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. The first month we don't even put any weight, as you have shown in the program. It is all about fitness, and that's the time when people come up with injuries, because that is when, if someone is going to be injured, that is when you're going to feel, because there are people who have odd injuries that they are going to feel. Maybe someone has an ankle injury, had an ankle injury previously. So that is when you're going to feel the guys are complaining about the injuries. Then the second month, that is when we start by carrying 5 kilos, but we do a very short distance. We start by walking. You walk, because most of the team, they are used to carry weight when they are doing their patrols, because they have to carry camelback. They have to carry, others have to carry their weapon. Others have to carry their rifles, so they are used to small weight. So after that, then the end of the next month, the second month, that is when you start by doing 22, but you do in a short distance. You start by 5, then you see how people react. Then after 2 days, we do 10. And all this time, we have a reader. We have someone who is like the team leader who is showing or who is running with the team, and who will be the part of the challenge, because running as a team is all about leadership. Because when you run in a group of 4, it shows teamwork, and in teamwork you need a leader. You need someone to motivate others. So we have a leader, but in training I also make sure that even me and other commanders are involved in training. So we train with them. If they are carrying weight, we try to carry less weight. If they are doing 10, we try to carry 2 camelback. You carry 3 kilos of your camelback. If we are doing the challenge of maybe 40 kilometers, we do with them. So it is everyone in that group if someone is not injured. And what we normally make sure is that those guys are taking water. Because previously we had seen challenges when we are training. There were people who are not taking water. and it did not go very well with them. And dehydration when you are doing your training is very, very important. And also, as Andrew has said previously, you know, what you eat or what you take during your training is also very important. So 8 teams that we are going to have for this year Water Ranger Challenge, because this year we are going to have 2 teams. For the first time, Lewa is going to produce Radius team. So we are trying our best to see whether we can deploy them close to the headquarters, because this is where our base is. And when they are here, they'll get access to gym. They'll get access to run as a team. Sometimes it's not possible. We come up with a program, but it is not possible to do every day because sometimes a rhino go missing and we need to mobilize our team. So they have to work and train. But we try all our best to train as a team. And, you know, running is a discipline, and fitness is all about mental. It's all about what you think, because, you know, sometimes I've heard Pete saying that you get pain, you get injuries, you feel your ankles, you feel your knees. And the same message I got from Eliud Kipchoge, who is a marathon runner. Running is mental. Sometimes he say, I feel my knees, sometimes I feel my back, but I'm telling my mind I have to accomplish my mission. So he normally says that he runs with his mind and his heart. So it's all about mental. Thank you. Unless anyone has a question, I think that is what we do here in Lewa. And we are wishing everyone good luck in training and also in competition. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Task for coming up with this idea of Water Ranger Challenge. Other than fitness, we have a chance or avenue to interact with other rangers, to learn more about other rangers, what they do. Because before this challenge, when we had COVID, people thought it's only in their country or in their conservancies where they have challenges. But after the Water Ranger Challenge, we could hear, we could see photos, we could see stories of other rangers. What we are going through here in Lewa, in protecting of wildlife and nature, the same things all over the world. So thank you.
Thanks, Edward. Yeah, Callum, Edward, thanks so much for sharing that. I think there are a couple of key points before we get onto any more questions. I haven't seen too many questions in the chat yet. If you do have, please post them now. And yeah, you'll see there's Keith and my email address is there if you'd like to get in touch. We also on the Wildlife Ranger Challenge 2024 WhatsApp group. So you're welcome to put some questions in there as well if you like, if we don't get to them now. A couple of key things there, I think, from Callum and Edward that I just want to reiterate. One was how to pack that backpack. And I'm going to throw that at Keith. He's got a lot of experience doing that. Do you have any, any tips for the guys out there in terms of how they should pack?
Yeah, to be honest, the packs aren't that heavy. But the general rule of thumb is you put the heavier weight closer to your back and also lower down is the general rule of thumb. But I know a lot of the guys are probably going to be carrying bags of rice or maize meal in their bag. So every item they put in there is probably going to be heavy. But if you can pack your backpacks with things that you normally take on patrol, then it'll be more realistic. And then in that case, you'd want the heavier stuff against your back and then also lower down in the pack. And if possible, try and have a hip belt on your pack. That will help a lot, take the weight off your shoulders. You'll find your shoulders up at top here on the traps will get very tender and sore. And if you've got a hip belt, that will make a huge difference. And then while you're running, also adjust the tension in your straps. So the weight shifts around a bit. But that's the general rule of thumb. It's not, I think it's going to be quite hard because everything you put in your pack to make the weight is probably going to be heavy, equal weight.
Yeah.
Make sure the pack, all the straps, the worst thing you have is straps flying around in all directions. Tie up all the straps so everything is neat and tight, and try and pull all the bolts that can adjust, pull them down tight. So you try and make the bag as compact as possible, so that will sit more easily on your body while you run, and will make it comfortable.
Yeah, I think some great points there, Keith. And the key is obviously to try and lessen the bounce or of that pack as much as possible. You don't want it bouncing up and down. So the tighter you can get it to your back, the better. And then just play around. That's why you're going to build up your weight. Is you're just going to try different things. What's comfortable for you. I think the hip belt key in terms of that can take some of the pressure off those shoulders and transfer it down to the lower limbs and the hips, and it just evens out the weight. Key in terms of what to put in your bag. I learned that lesson quite in the first year. I put little rocks like building stone in my bag, which I regretted very soon, because they sort of worked their way all to the bottom and then started grinding into my lower back and hips for the rest of the run. So that wasn't very pleasant. Haven't done that again. So yeah, then when we were up in Kasane, we did it with rice. Rice is quite nice in terms of if you can negotiate with your ops room with your logistics and support crew in terms of getting the Rangers rice. It's quite nice in terms of you can get 10 kilogram, 2 10 kg bags and 2 1 kg bags. So you know exactly that your weight is 100% on the money. And what's key there as well is to have it in sealed bags. What I found with some of the guys running with maize meal is if it's not sealed properly, it can absorb the sweat and just get heavier as it swells and absorbs water. So you want something that is well sealed. So something like rice or maize meal, but sealed appropriately is good. It's soft. It can mold to your back. And obviously like at the Wildlife College last year, all the rangers got to take home all the goods that they were carrying, much like Callum suggested happened at Gonorrhoea, which is a nice incentive after carrying it for 21 kilometers. You deserve it. Yeah, and then another point that Callum brought up just around the first aid and having a support vehicle, really, really important, and having appropriate people trained to administer that first aid, really crucial, and something that should be on site anyway in any of the protected areas that we work. So having a decent first aid support, equipment, training, and someone that's close by, and with logistical support in terms of if something does happen, if a ranger falls, that you can get them to an appropriate facility by having standby support there in terms of a vehicle. Then Edward, you made a point around leading by example as leaders, and I think it's so nice to see the team sometimes running with their reserve manager or anti-poaching commander or something as part of the team. They don't necessarily always run as part of the team itself, but running in support with the team. And we see that often from the different protected areas where you might have the team carrying weight, but following them are a group of support runners. And we definitely encourage that, whether it's admin staff or people that aren't going to carry the weight, but that they run with the rangers on race day as a show of solidarity and support. I think really important and can be a great team builder for the teams. I'm just going to check on the chat box here. We've got about another 5 minutes.
I haven't seen any questions yet, Andrew, but they've been coming in. A lot of people have been introducing themselves.
I have a question from Uganda. Thank you very much, team, for having us. I appreciate Tusk. I appreciate familiar names like Dan Bucknell and my team, Patrick Agaba, and Richard and Ronald. I had a question about the internet. As you know, of late, the undersea cable for normal internet has been sabotaged or interrupted from time to time. So like in Uganda context or in other countries that are participating in this year's 2024, is it possible to have like an option for Starlink or MTN or Airtel or Orange so that we can send proper, you know, on the run day, 21st of September, we can send like real-time video clips because we're going to be in remote areas where there's no GSM and there's no RF per se and this stuff. So maybe we can think about some kind of engagement with Starlink as an example to have a backup internet for this activities that are going to be happening up until the 21st of September. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, comms we know is always difficult. I'm going to defer that one. It's more of a general question, you know, in terms of how we deal with the submission of results and photographs and that. So yeah, we'll try and think of ways to improve that. But yeah, internet connectivity at site is difficult. We do understand that. Yeah. Are there any other questions related to the training plan itself? I just want to touch on Strava, if that would be of use to you guys. But if I just want to check the chat box. I don't see any.
I haven't seen anything, Andrew. I just had a quick scroll through.
I have a question.
Right, so hi, it's Frank.
Yes. Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, this is Frank Kabeja Zakaria from Tanzania, and I am the manager of WAGA WMA, which stands for Wildlife Management Area. So in terms of law enforcement here in our parks, we face a lot of challenges. So didn't you think of adding something related to firearms, the use of firearms, and how people can help themselves escape or get to capture these, what we call poachers, when they are in the field? So don't we think of adding something related to firearms?
Thanks, Frank. Yeah, it is something that we considered initially with the Wildlife Ranger Challenge, but a lot of the teams don't carry firearms. We have some marine teams as well that don't carry. We know that a lot of parks do carry firearms, and they are an important part of the work, but it would exclude a lot of protected areas that don't carry. So that was the reasoning there, and that's why we try to just focus on the quiz and the fitness challenges. Yeah.
And then Frank, just to add to that, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're looking for, you know, an opportunity to develop some of the skills and expertise through the challenge that will have direct benefits to the rangers on the ground over and above fitness. In that case, this challenge is not designed other than for the fitness side and camaraderie-ship and discipline. It's not designed to replicate the training that you should get through basic field ranger training and advanced field ranger training. So for the firearm and arresting procedures, etc., I strongly recommend that you get your teams onto a BFR or an advanced training program, depending if you've got an in-house trainer or if you work with Mweka or Seka Maganga or one of those, or work with the Game Rangers Association, and they can put you in contact with a list of training providers as well.
Thanks, Keith. Peter just had a question around marine-based rangers, saying they don't normally carry huge weight during patrols, mostly just food and water. And in some instances, you know, their patrols are conducted on patrol boats. So yeah, we have dealt with this before with some of the marine teams. And Peter, some of the teams from Oceans Without Borders have done the challenge in the past without the weight, and that's okay. Obviously, the results can't be compared to those that are carrying weight, but they they found, islands that I know the one year they ran around the island on the beach and they managed to get the 21 kilometers that way, but without carrying the weight. But the improvement in terms of, like I said, the mental and physical aspects of fitness training is just as applicable to the marine teams, although they might not patrol in the same way as the land-based teams. So we do recognize that. We're trying to bring on more marine rangers to the Wildlife Ranger Challenge, but at the moment they are in the minority still. So yeah, but we've seen the teams doing underwater push-ups with scuba tanks before, which has been fantastic, and having some fun. So yeah, and welcome to the marine guys. Yeah.
It's fun. You mentioned the word. I think that's really key. Is see it as fun. Even if the marine rangers it's not really applicable when it comes to the run. Just see it as fun, and it's part about it. This is all about rangers right across the African continent, and this is, I think, now one of the largest sporting events across Africa. So you guys are literally part of breaking boundaries here, and that's fantastic. Yeah. What we'd like to see is, as we get more marine rangers on board, we'll probably come up with a swimming challenge for the marine component, or any other ones that would like to do that, because swimming is such a fantastic exercise for overall fitness. So we could come up with a swimming challenge in the future, but at the moment it doesn't warrant it because we don't have enough marine rangers on board.
But yeah, Peter, feel free, as the teams have in the past, to adapt what we're doing to your, what's appropriate for the marine sector. And if you want some ideas or just to chat through it, please reach out to Keith and I. We've both got a big interest in the marine sector, so we'd love to see what you guys are keen to do. I know, where there's access to boats, even if it's a paddling, kayaking kind of challenge, has also been chatted about in the past. So please feel free to reach out, and we can come up with some ideas there. A weighted paddle might be quite fun as well. All right, teams, we've reached the end of our hour. We're just about 3 minutes over at the moment.
Okay, then one thing is that this thing, the training issue and the challenge issue, does it consider gender mainstreaming issues? Or it is just someone who is willing to come up with that?
So can you just clarify there what you mean?
Okay, so in choosing the team, does it mean that we are going to deal with gender mainstreaming issues, by meaning that the number of men to women should be equal, or it deals with anyone that is willing to do that?
So there are separate categories for the male teams and the female teams. We have had mixed teams compete in the past as well. But each of the push-up challenge, the sit-up challenge, the run, it is all broken into male and female categories. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Frank. We're gonna just wrap up now, guys. I hope you've found that valuable. If there's any more questions, I know there's a lot to discuss around the fitness training. We've got a couple of weeks until the program starts. We'd love to see your guys' feedback and in terms of how the teams are progressing. So please feel free to post onto the Wildlife Ranger Challenge group, when you're doing fitness activities, or and you'd like to share that, please do. We encourage the teams to do that. Then just quickly on the Strava, we'll be sharing a Wildlife Ranger Rangers running club on Strava with you. We'll do that over the WhatsApp group. And for those rangers that are using Strava already, they're welcome to join that running club. And what that'll do is it'll just keep a record of how many kilometers you're covering, and you'll be able to see how you compare with the other rangers participating. So that's by no means compulsory. It is voluntary for those that are using Strava, but I'll share more details on that in the next 10 days or so, via the WhatsApp group for those that are keen. Keith, I don't know if there's anything from your side as we close out for the day. Just wishing everyone luck and good luck with the training. I think there's enough time to put the heads down and work towards September. You'll see it on the screen there. 21st of September is when the big run takes place, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the start line and seeing you competing all the mini challenges. Good luck for the quiz. That's the one that isn't physical, taking place this week. And I hope that's going well. We've seen some photographs already coming through on that. So from all of us, from Wildlife Ranger Challenge, from Tusk, and from the GRAA, thanks so much. And we look forward to hearing and seeing more of you guys in the next few months.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.